Off. I'm sure some people will still be joining in a little while, but thank you for joining. Welcome to How to Get AI Ready Data Without Compromise. What a hook, right? We're going to be talking about this concept of compromise throughout this whole presentation today. But before we do, I'd like to introduce you to your hosts. So myself, I'm Amy Reams. I oversee all marketing and partnerships for Anomalo. I'm very lucky to be joined here with my colleague Anthony Lee, who heads up Anomalo's pre-sales engineering. And you're going to hear a bit from me, and then I'm going to hand it over to Anthony, who's actually going to do a live demo. And you can tell this is live because you could probably hear my dog snoring in the background. So this is happening in real time. So we wanted to make sure we were bringing you the latest and greatest in a live fashion from Anomalo. Bit of housekeeping. We want to make this interactive. There's going to be some polls throughout, but also feel free to ask questions in the Q&A box in the chat. We will monitor them. We'll pause after my session, and then as we get into Anthony's demo to make sure we're addressing questions throughout, and then of course at the end. So now that that's out of the way, why are we here, right? Why are you here? Well, you are here because the world of data is rapidly evolving. Not that data was ever simple, but it sure used to be a lot more simple than it is today. We had stable, centralized data pipelines, often in one data warehouse. We only had to worry about structured data, not that pesky unstructured data. And there was something called a data team, right? Remember that small centralized team that had access to all of the data? Well, for better or for worse, and I'd argue that it's for the better, those days are gone. Now you have distributed multi-cloud real-time pipelines, dozens, if not hundreds of data stewards who want access to that data, and a mixture of structured, unstructured, and semi-structured data. And most of all, we have AI, right? Whether you think AI is the cure of all ails, the big bad wolf, or somewhere in between, the reality is that AI is here and it's here to stay. So with that in mind, I would actually like to start with an icebreaker. Here's our first poll for you all. If your data could talk, what excuse would it give for not being AI ready? You should all see a prompt here. Would love to get your answers in. Should be playing the Jeopardy music while this is coming through. All right, I think we can go ahead and close the poll, Marissa. All right, I'm seeing some great answers trickle in here. Thanks for sharing, everyone. I appreciate it. Like any good user of AI, I also asked ChatGPT what I thought you'd all be most likely to say. And my favorite was probably, sorry, I overslept. Be there when I can. I'm still cleaning myself up. Yes, and it looks like the best answers, most of you have gone with number 1, 2, and 3. I'm siloed. Different systems don't connect or share. My quality is inconsistent. Too many errors and gaps. I love it, right? Good thing our data can't talk, right? Tongue in cheek aside, you get the point, right? Our data is simply not ready for AI. Not only are there data quality issues slowing down AI progress, but they are costing enterprises like yourselves time, trust, and millions of dollars, right? These stats are through the roof when you think about it, right? Forrester estimated that data analysts spend 40% of their time vetting their data. And even scarier is that this could lead to $15 million in lost revenues. $15 million, right? Think of the data analysts you could hire with $15 million. You could probably hire 100 of them, right? Imagine that. And why does this matter, right? Not only does it matter because poor data quality is losing you millions, but it matters because you are being asked by your boss's boss's boss to deploy an AI project. And I'm here to tell you that modern data quality is the foundation for AI success. So if you're on this call right now, you're on this webinar because you are trying to get AI ready, now is the time to close out Slack or stop responding to email and really perk up, right? Because we have simple advice for you. Put simply, legacy data quality tools are putting your AI projects at risk, right? We all saw the MIT report that's making all of its rounds on all of our LinkedIns right now. But really, if you drill into some of the data that's been around for a little while, what we're seeing is that 30% of Gen AI projects will be abandoned this year. And 42% of organizations say they do not trust the outputs of their AI models. But what can you do about it, right? We all know the problems, but let's get tactical here. You joined this for a reason. So what can you do about it? Well, you can join your peers and invest today in a data quality strategy. Because 67% of data and analytics leaders are prioritizing data quality and data governance as one of their top investments. And 70% will adopt modern data quality solutions to better support their AI initiatives. Right? So it's not all doom and gloom, like MIT says, right? There is a solution, there is a path here to streamlining processes. But making a decision on how to go about this isn't easy. So we at Anomalo spoke to dozens of analysts and Global 2000 companies recently to better understand what parameters they use to determine that they truly have data quality covered when it comes to AI readiness. And 6 pillars rose to the top. Now, I'm going to get into those 6 pillars, but the whole topic here is about data quality without compromise. And what we found is despite these 6 pillars rising to the top, people also told us that in traditional methods, they are being forced to compromise one or more of these 6 pillars when choosing a data quality tool. Now, I'm going to come back to this later, right? This idea of being forced to compromise. But before I do, I'd like to break down the 6. So here we go, right? To fuel your AI strategy, your data quality strategy needs to really meet these 6 criteria. Enterprise grade security, comprehensive data coverage, having a depth of data understanding, automated anomaly detection, customization and control, and ease of use. Right, so they might sound self-explanatory, but I'd like to break down each one, right, and talk a little bit more about the business impact of compromising across one or more of these. So first and foremost, enterprise-grade security, right? This is table stakes. And when I talk about this, I always like to think of the classic quote from Spider-Man, actually, that says, with great power comes great responsibility. And above all, you as the data owners, the data stewards, the data governance leaders that are on this call, you both have that power, but you also have that responsibility to keep that data safe, right? And the best way that you can do this is by choosing a tool that's not sending data out of your environment to perform data quality checks. You need to ensure that you're protecting sensitive data while meeting compliance standards. I recently saw what happened with Talent Hook, the large recruiting company. Right? They had a small data misconfiguration that actually led to 26 million resumes containing PII to actually get released. Right? None of you can afford to be the next Talent Hook. Right? Enterprise grade security is a must for any data quality and AI strategy. Let's take that a step further, right? Let's look at comprehensive data coverage. I want to be blunt here. A system that only looks at structured data is only going to get you part of the way there for your AI strategy. Enterprise data quality today demands that you have comprehensive data coverage across semi-structured, structured, and unstructured data. Partial coverage for your business will create blind spots and bad decisions for your business. I keep hearing this term recently called dark data, right? It's referring to the fact that about 90% of enterprise data is unstructured and therefore underutilized. It's often trapped, as you all know, in formats like documents, emails, images. And those formats can defy easy indexing, therefore making them dark and inaccessible to your enterprise. And honestly, maybe I'm leaning too much into the superhero analogy today, but I keep thinking now about Batman, right? Because an enterprise data quality solution should help you move this data out of the dark and into the light, just like Batman, by helping you get your unstructured data fit for purpose for AI use cases. The third pillar we kept hearing from enterprises in this evaluation was that they needed a product that had a depth of a data understanding. Honestly, the slide should really just say metadata checks are simply not enough, right? Metadata is having its rightful moment. There's value in your metadata. But when it comes to data quality, a metadata check, which is also known as a data observability check, will not suffice for enterprise data quality. I like to think of data as a box, right? Humor me, I used to work at Amazon, so I'm a logistics nerd here. But I like to picture data as a box, right? Moving through your factory, moving through your data warehouse. Now, picture that box when it comes in, right? A metadata check or an observability check will see if that box is the right size and shape and if it arrived on time. Did it arrive on time? Great, pass it through. But a data quality check will actually open up that box and look inside. So sure, with data observability, you know the data arrived on time, but maybe you were expecting shoes in that box and instead you got towels, right? And just like you can't walk around with towels on your feet, you can't run AI with the wrong data or anomalous data. And this is why today you need to rely on a data quality system that deeply, deeply understands your data. Because it's in this understanding that you're actually able to detect and resolve data quality issues. So number 4 is automation. But before I define this, I actually would like to do another poll. So I'm curious, folks on the line, how often are you relying on rules? So think SQL rules, Python-based rules to detect data quality issues. Go ahead and rank it 1 to 5. All right, I think we can go ahead and close out the poll there. All right, yeah, I'm seeing a lot of 5s, a lot of 4s. Right, I'm not surprised, right? Rules are the most traditional way to set up a data quality system, right? We've all done it, right? We've all created these SQL-based rules. We've all done this to deterministically figure out where data quality issues lie. But guess what? There is another way, right? Modern data quality today can help you break out of what we refer to as the data quality doom loop. So I know the image is small on the side here, but the data quality doom loop is where you probably are today. The people that put 5s and 4s, I'm sure you're groaning or nodding along or laughing at this because this is where a lot of customers sit, right? They start by doing nothing. They write rules and then they rewrite those rules as their data changes and they get stuck in this pattern. They throw more bodies at the problem. They let their old rules go stale. And again, it's this data quality doom loop. Think of a legacy tool like an Informatica, right? This is all rules based. And what this means is not only are you going to get stuck in this loop, but you're also only going to find what they know to look for. So heavy manual user input and not finding any unknown unknowns in your enterprise data estate. An automated AI first approach, on the other hand, learns normal patterns within your data and flags deviations that humans cannot see. Right, so this AI first anomaly detection is now essential for real-time decisions at scale. And note, I'm not saying AI created rules, right? Those are still just rules. A modern tool should go beyond this by automatically finding issues in the data based on depth of understanding that I previously talked about in this presentation. All right, 2 more to go before the live demo. Hopefully you're still with me here because I really want to get into customization and control. This is honestly one of my favorites. I loved that our customers and analysts really flagged this as one of the essential criteria for modern data quality today. Look, I just gave a speech to you about the death of rules, right? Not getting stuck in that data quality doom loop. But here's the thing. There can be a time and a place for rules. And also change can be hard, right? Some of you are moving these large monolithic entities into an AI first era, and that can be tough. And so you can't always just jump into this ML first approach overnight, right? There has to be a change management element. So maybe, you do want to maintain some of these rules. Maybe you have a dozen critical data elements you live and die on that you need to create a key metric check for. Or there's a specific value that you know should never be above a certain threshold, right? That's okay. Right? And this is why you need a tool that gives you both customization and control to be able to use machine learning to find 80 to 90% of your data quality issues, while also offering the ability to use rules to find the other needle in a haystack edge cases. But this goes beyond rules and metric creation when I think about customization. Right? Our customers are telling us they also need control over how you get your data fit for purpose for AI, right? This was kind of mind-blowing for us, right? We thought about customization and control in the context of quality, but it was also about getting your data operational. So a modern tool should go beyond just quality checks and also ensure you can structure, analyze, and extract insights from your unstructured data. And then this is where the control and customization piece really comes into play, right? Because all of this is great, but it's only so great if it lives within the systems that your organization uses. So for example, you might want lineage from your data quality provider. Maybe you want it from your data catalog, or maybe even your data warehouse, like a Snowflake or a BigQuery or a Databricks. All of this is about customization and control, right? There's no reason why an enterprise tool today should force you to do one or the other, right? Use rules or machine learning. See data quality and alerts in Slack or in Teams or in your data catalog, right? It's your choice how you want to interact with these alerts for your business. But whatever you do, it has to be easy, right? If everything I described so far required hours of data engineering time or a lot of API work, we'd be back there with the 15 million in lost revenue, right? Because you cannot afford to throw bodies at this problem because it will never ever take off. And so for a business to truly become data-driven and AI first, business users, analysts, data product owners, everyone must be able to engage with data quality issues to close the loop quickly. This means no code UIs to create rules, but you should never ask the team that doesn't know SQL to be tasked with going in and trying to write a SQL-based rule to find data that they need to look for. There should be alerts that are contextually relevant to the data fluent business users. So these are the 6, right? And before we pivot here and get to the hotly anticipated demo, I have just one more poll. So remember, I said we're going to get back to this idea of compromise. Well, again, we're seeing that across analysts, data professionals we spoke to, these are their 6 most important pillars. However, they are being asked to compromise time and time again across one or more. So as you see in the poll, I'd like to understand which one of these are you not willing to compromise on. All right. I'm a sucker for awkward pauses here, so I'm going to close out the poll. We'll look at some of the results here. Security, yes, I love that one. You'll be amazed at how many people immediately rule out vendors in RFP for not meeting enterprise grade security. Depth of data understanding, I love that too, right? I love that people understand you need to know your data to therefore detect data quality issues. But we saw results for all of these, right? And the good news is, what if I told you you didn't have to compromise on any of them, right? This is where Anomalo comes into play, right? We are the only data quality solution on the market that does not force you to compromise. We offer enterprise grade security, comprehensive data coverage, depth of data understanding, automated anomaly detection, customization and control, and ease of use. And we do this for some of the world's largest enterprises today, from Discover Financial to Nationwide to ADP and Atlassian. This is why we are the only data quality vendor to be backed by both Databricks and Snowflake, and why we're continuously ranked easiest setup and high performer quarter after quarter on G2. But look, any vendor can say these things, right? I'm sure every vendor is saying these things to you. We at Anomalo believe the proof is in the pudding. So I'm actually going to hand it off to my colleague, Anthony Lee here, who's going to show you not just that we can do it, but how we do it, and show you what no compromises looks like in action. Over to you, Anthony.
Thank you, Amy. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Can everyone see that okay? Amy, is this showing up?
Yes, I can see it. Thanks, Anthony.
Awesome. Thank you, Amy, and thank you everyone for joining this webinar today. So before jumping into the demo itself, I want to quickly talk about the backend, powerhouse behind the scenes that you actually cannot see. Anomalo's architecture is very unique where it could be deployed completely in VPC in your private cloud without a connection back to us. No agent type of deployment, no hybrid is necessary. We can run completely self-contained. We are also fully SOC 2 compliant for those that prefer our cloud as well. Furthermore, our scalable containerized architecture allows us to easily scale to any dataset size and any amount of monitored objects. Lastly, Anomalo provides granular security governance where everything I'm about to show you, for example, what you see here on the screen, can abide by strict enterprise grade security standards. For example, I can log in right now as an admin. I can see all these different objects, but maybe when Amy logs in, she can only see a certain selection. That way, we're really able to abide by particular requirements on who can access what, when, and how. Now into the demo. Throughout this webinar demo, I will be highlighting key capabilities and highlights in both anomalous structured and unstructured data monitoring. While organizations today spend the majority of their time with structured tables, in the past couple of years, we've seen an exponential increase in unstructured freeform data, and Anomalo addresses both, which allows Anomalo to provide comprehensive coverage across all variety of data. So let's begin. Here's Anomalo's structured demo. You can see here I have a variety of different objects. These objects could represent a table, a view, materialize, internal, external, etc. We connect to a wide variety of data sources in our simple UI. You can see here on the screen we can connect to data warehouses, modern, legacy, databases, and data lakes as well. So a wide variety of different data sources we can connect to, and then we'll go ahead and populate our UI with, again, queryable objects that are likely tables. Meanwhile, in our unstructured view, what we have are what we call a collection of documents, right? So documents ultimately are any type of files that you may have stored in, for example, a data lake. So here we have a collection of different documents, and the documents can represent CSVs in this example, text files, and it'll just be stored in a data lake. You simply point to it and we'll go ahead and index it and have it ready for monitoring. Now, let's talk about the data itself. Out of the box with no configuration necessary, Anomalo really starts off your journey by trying to understand the contents of the data itself, not just what's on the surface. And this is where we really begin to demonstrate the depth of data understanding. Let me drill into a demo table over here. This is a transactional table. This is our Anomalo table view homepage, and I'm just going to slowly scroll down to the bottom of the screen. Out of the box, automatically, without any configuration necessary, Anomalo will automatically begin to profile this table, okay? You can see here a basic bar graph that shows you the row count throughout time. You can see here we have a distribution profile. Not only do you get the column name, the column type, but also a quick distribution summary of what that actually looks like. This allows you to quickly do sanity checks, right? This column is all null. Is that normal? Maybe, maybe not. But again, a good way to show you a visual representation of what that data looks like. And if I scroll a little bit more, now you get what we call a statistical summary. So once again, column name, types, we provide some more information on statistically what those columns look like specifically for numerical columns. You get the mean, median, kurtosis, etc. additional information. If I move into my unstructured data set, I'm going to jump into a collection. Once again, this specific one is a customer reviews. It's a collection of different text documents. And if I scroll down a little bit, you can see, once again, automated, out of the box, no configuration necessary, profiling we do to help you understand a little bit more about what's actually happening with this collection of documents. We get the level of writing, the number of pages per document, the type of document, particular topics they may be talking about, the tone, the language, etc. And this is all customizable that I'll show you a little bit more in a little bit throughout this demonstration. Looking beyond just basic understanding and profiling of data, Anomalo's depth and specialty is really in our automated anomaly detection. I think it's really important to emphasize that Anomalo was born, and the reference is many, many years ago before AI, GPT, LLMs was even a thing, with an AI ML first approach to monitoring your data. That is really our core, that is really our foundation. And customers have seen our automation capture about 80% of common issues that they commonly face today. So let's jump into that right now and see it in action. Here
Hey,
back in
Anthony.
Unstructured, we have two
Anthony,
different
before we
sections
get
of,
into that, we actually have a question if you don't mind pausing for a sec.
yes, of course.
Great. We have a question asking, can Anomalo profile a logical data set, which could in turn acquire data from various physical data tables and files?
I was on mute. Yeah. So the answer is definitely yes. There's two ways to do it. If you're just looking at raw files that you may have stored in, for example, a AWS S3 bucket, or unstructured is probably the first angle that you want to take because this is able to observe and monitor raw files within a particular bucket path, right? The next step that we see a lot of organizations take is put a layer on top of that, right? To put some type of structure on top of raw files. In this case, it could be a table. Underneath the table, especially in data lake houses, they're just files. So underneath this particular table, it's probably just hundreds, dozens of files. And with that, by putting some type of structure and logical layer on top of it, we're able to query it, and by querying it, we're able to get more insights that you normally wouldn't if it was just raw files there in an S3 bucket. Great. So let's talk about in our structured platform, the different types of observability and quality checks that we do. You can see here in the UI, we really break it down into two distinct, discrete sections, table observability and what we like to call deep data quality. Now, table observability, this is really, really basic, surface level, commodity, cheap, fast checks, right? Is the table there? Does it still exist? If it does, is it fresh? Is it being updated? Is it the correct size? Right? This is where Anomal is strictly leveraging the metadata store of the underlying data warehouse or data lake to obtain these information. The analogy I like to use is if you think about a pipeline, physically, a pipeline, this is just looking, using your eyes, taking a glance, saying, hey, are there any visible cracks, right? Pretty simple. You can do that in a couple seconds. But deep data quality, instead of just glancing at it, we're looking into the contents of the pipeline, right? So not just the surface, but actually what's flowing through it. Okay. So this is really where Anomalo shines and where most of our customers really see a lot of value. So we have six discrete sections. I'll go through each one of them. Data freshness is a pretty simple one. This is just answering the question, hey, is there fresh data on this table for this particular date? It's pretty binary, yes or no. Assuming that there is, next we move to data volume. Data volume is going to ask the question, okay, Anomaly, I know there's fresh data, but is there sufficient amount of data? So let's actually click into that and drill in to see what's actually happening underneath the scenes. So what's actually happening is Anomaly is looking at historical patterns and trends of what the predicted and what the historical row count is for this particular table. And we build a time series model off of that. And as new data comes in or arrives tomorrow, we're going to validate that against this model. You can see here, one thing that we do is look through years and years of data. And that way we're able to account for a really granular seasonality. For example, weekly, monthly, yearly seasonality. In this basic example, you can see there's a dip every weekend, right? There's a dip in row count every weekend. So as next weekend comes along, if it's lower, hey, that's probably normal. However, if there's a really steep decrease for a particular day, that we would have marked as an anomaly and you would have received a notification around that. So this is just one component of some of the machine learning at work. Again, just summarizing, looking at historical patterns and trends, building a time series model off of that. And as new data comes in, we're going to validate it against it. Okay. The next two sections, if I scroll down a little bit, missing data and table anomalies, these are really core to Anomalo. And this is what we like to call our unsupervised machine learning, our UML. And it's unsupervised because you are not supervising it. You're there to just set it and forget it. You tell Anomalo, hey, monitor these tables, and we're automatically going to look for very common anomalies that we've seen through our customer base and through some customer surveys as well. So missing data is pretty self-explanatory. I won't read these one by one, but just any increases in nulls, missing values, any drops in a statistically significant segment. And then we have our table anomalies check, which is really powerful. And this is our catch-all check. I like to say, think of this as your safety net. I can't tell you right now what it's going to look for because I don't know. It's going to look for unknown unknowns. It's going to look for any statistically significant distribution shift in any value across all columns of this table. So let's just look at a basic example of what we found. Here's a column called merchant category code. You can see that the value fast food decreased from around 13% to 0%. That's a pretty statistically significant drop. So that's something we marked as a severe anomaly. Or here's another one, transaction type. The percentage of missing value increased, so there was nothing missing to around 5% of missing records. That's also a pretty statistically significant increase in missing values. So that's also something we labeled as a severe anomaly. And if you slowly scroll down, we provide some more rich context on like the compare and contrast before with what we've seen before, what we see after. You get sample of bad records if you want to do further investigation, sample of good records. And one of my favorite things, if I scroll down a little bit more, is where applicable, Anomalo does its best to help explain why something occurred. So this is actually an anomaly that I talked about earlier, transaction type or percentage of missing values increased. Great, great, you were able to detect that, but why did it increase? And here we're able to see correlations with other columns where if merchant name is equal to Lyft and merchant name is equal to Uber, that represents quite a high majority of those missing values. So if I was a data engineer trying to fix that, that's probably an area, maybe an API connection call to those ride sharing is broken, and that's something I want to pay attention to. So I just want to quickly emphasize that everything that I've showed you thus far, fully automated. Okay. There's no configuration, there's no setup. You just say, hey, Anomalo, monitor this table. And everything that I've demoed thus far is out there out of the box. And one thing that we've commonly see out there is that a lot of these modern trends these days is to use AI to do rule recommendation, right? We're going to understand a little bit more about your table. We're going to recommend you dozens of rules, and then you can go ahead and apply that. And Anomalo's approach is actually a bit different because, as Amy talked about, we don't want you to rely on those rules. We don't want you to have that overhead of figuring out which one is correct, which one's incorrect, and then managing over all of them. We want to take this unsupervised approach to just have a set it and forget it, where you can be confident enough that our machine learning already understands the most common type of anomalies, data quality issues that you see out there, and it's going to automatically look for it. Great. The next thing I want to jump into is our unstructured and some of what it can look for out of the box without any configuration necessary. So here, again, I'm looking at customer reviews across a plethora of different documents, text files. And up on the very top, you can see we look for issues. Now, issues are specific anomalies that we have out of the box that are looking through all the contents and really trying to give it a score, and what we see is actually bad out there. Each collection of document has a rating. You can see this rating is 8.7, which is actually pretty high. And the more and more issues that this is able to find automatically, the lower the score is going to be. So some of the issues we can find are like negative sentiment, PII type of data, poorly written, maybe something is actually fake. So if I just click into not human generated, I can see the exact documents, right? The exact files that we labeled as not human generated, and I can drill into those as well. So here we provide more additional context on, hey, why is this not possibly not human generated? And what are some of the other issues that this was able to detect automatically? We provide you a quick summary An LLM generates summary on what that looks like. And also we expose the content if you have access. So then you can actually see, hey, what is this actually detecting and why? So all these issues and metadata that I've shown thus far, these are, once again, automated, out of the box, no configuration necessary. I'll show in a little bit how you can customize this, but all you say is, hey, Anomalo, monitor this S3 bucket, for example, that has all these files, and it's automatically going to run all these.
And Anthony, we had a question. It looks like based on what you just said, you might be getting to it, but the question
Yeah.
was for unstructured monitoring, can you create custom issues on top of these?
Yeah, definitely. Give me 2 minutes and I'll show you real quickly how that's done.
Great.
Now, as I mentioned, a lot of what I demoed thus far, fully automated, out of the box, no customization necessary. However, you have some really complex issues or specific business logic you want implemented. Anomalo also provides customization and control for power users on what you want to monitor and how you want to monitor it. Here, back to my structure table, we have two sections, key metrics, validation rules. When you first log in, these will actually be empty, right? And then you as a company, you can come in here and really add those custom rules, complex logic on what you want to monitor that may be very unique to your business. Real quickly, key metric, you're tracking a metric throughout time, a numerical value. The data volume that I showed you earlier is a good example of key metric. And while validation rules are hard and fast rules that have to be applied on every single record. For both key metric and validation rules, we provide a low code, no code interface with literally hundreds of checks. I won't go through these one by one. We'll be here quite a while, but just trust me when I say we literally have hundreds of checks here that you can go ahead and apply on your data. One part that's also important is for any hypothetical scenario where one of our checks does not solve what you're looking for, you can see here on the screen, we allow you to input custom SQL, right? So SQL that you're probably already leveraging today, you can just copy and paste that into Anomalo. We'll push it down to the data warehouse and then we'll run machine learning on top of it. And once again, this is applicable for both key metrics and validation rules. Going back to our unstructured and back to the question that Amy just talked about, I talked about all these issues that you see up here, all this metadata that you see down here. These are out of the box, but what if you want to add some more custom ones? So if I click configure up there, I see two tabs, one for issues, one for metadata. And each one of these has a list of our out of the box ones that we're looking for, right? You can see abusive language is disabled right now. PII is enabled. We have a bunch out of the box. And then you see a button that says add an issue, right? So if you're looking for something that maybe I'm just making this up, you need to see that comes from a specific country. I need to figure out, I need to analyze this collection of documents to know the source of it. You can go ahead here and use natural language to really prompt our machine learning, our AI to what to look for. You can give it a score, right? I talked about the aggregate score earlier, and then you're off to the races. It's as simple as that. Just one quick interface, and then you can automatically tell Anomalo to start monitoring those issues or metadata within a collection of documents. Lastly, while I'm in unstructured, even more control is needed as quality is entirely dependent on the use case in which data is being used. That is why we also have Anomalo workflows, a modular workflow builder that lets you do more than just monitor. It allows customers to structure, analyze, extract insights from your data, and then export it. All this is customizable, stackable. For example, you can quickly identify and remove PII from policy documents to ensure compliance, or curate training data for further AI training from internal calls, documentations. You can remove PII from there, etc. And all this is done in a quick, simple interfaces for users to build out their desired income. So here I have a bunch of workflows. You can see they all passed. I can click into one and I'll just go to the configuration screen. During this workflow, you can see you specify a source, you can specify what to actually analyze. Remember, this was the collection of issues and metadata that I showed you earlier. You could tell specifically what to look for. You could talk about how we're actually going to fix this data, resolve it. Do I want to redact PII? Do I want to delete PII? And then lastly, you can export this out to a CSV, to a table. So then additional AI analysis or any type of data analysis can be done on this fixed data set. So this is really powerful as well. And lastly, on the structure side, continuing on the pillar of depth of data understanding, Anomalo checks produce rich outputs. And this is frankly one of my favorite parts of the Anomalo platform. I'm just going to jump into a basic validation rule, transaction type. This is a column name is never null. Really basic, right? Everyone can do this. You're probably doing this today. But what Anomalo provides, in addition to just telling you, hey, we were able to detect no values, is a lot more additional context. So you get the number of records, percentage of records that are actually null. You get the statistical trend throughout time. Maybe on weekends, I have more nulls or less nulls than weekdays, right? So you can see that trend throughout time. Root cause analysis, I talked about that earlier, looking at the different column correlations of what and why this actually failed. And then you get the sample of bad records again, sample of good records. You can expose that, you can download that, you can show how to generate a SQL in case you want to do some further pipeline isolation, for example. To wrap up this demo, I want to quickly clarify that everything that I showed you today, you don't need to be an expert, right? You have seen the ability to quickly connect to data sources, automatically monitor it with Anomalo's out-of-the-box functionality, and also have the ability to add custom checks without needing to code if one doesn't know how to. So this ease of use is all governed by our enterprise-grade backend and security. Now, keep in mind, I haven't shown you all of Anomalo's capabilities, just the highlights, so feel free to reach out if you or your organization would like to learn more. Thank you, and now we'll hand it back to Amy.
All right. Thanks, Anthony. And I'll go ahead and reshare my screen as we answer a couple of the questions here. So first and foremost, if you want to see this for your organization, please get in touch, right? We can do a personalized walkthrough. We also allow for POCs as well if you want to trial the software as well. But before we do that, let's actually get into a couple questions, Anthony. So first, how does Anomalo's AI model adapt as data evolves over time? Does it retrain automatically, and how long does it take to train?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I kind of went through two different type of algorithms that we have today. One is historical looking, the time series model, right? So that I'm looking at historical patterns and trends. We get that information immediately because we're querying the data. And then as new data comes in, we automatically leverage that. So that's one. Our unsupervised machine learning, that takes some more time, right? So today, if you say, hey, Anomalo, monitor this table, we're going to learn it. We're going to say, hey, what does this data table look like today? Tomorrow, we're going to look at it then, and then the next day. Every day, we're going to learn more and more about your data. And I would say in a couple weeks, we have a threshold that then decreases gradually. We will have higher confidence of what is normal and what is not normal, and we begin to start, sending you alerts if need be. This is a good way to suppress false positives, right? We don't want you to get spammed with notifications on alerts that may not be real. That's one. And then two is that we want our models to have high confidence of what it's able to detect before we actually alert you. If you think about, for example, ChatGPT, it's training on the entire internet. Think about how much data, and it takes time. Each one of these revisions, one, two, three, four, five, I think we're on five, right? It takes months of training before it has higher accuracy and confidence what it's able to detect. So yeah, a couple of weeks for that, and you're off to the races.
Perfect. Then I love this next question. What are the specific advantages Anomalo has when compared to Calibra data quality? If you want to take a stab, Anthony, and I can chime in after as well.
Yeah, I think one thing that is important to keep in mind is what the company itself is actually focused on and like where the R&D comes from. What I mean by that is Calibra, as we all know, is a data catalog, right? They openly advertise that, and that's kind of where they started, where a lot of their investments. They've done some acquisitions to try to get in the data quality space and try to weave it in. But ultimately, Calibra and also there are other platforms out there, they go for that kind of the width, the extensive capabilities of what they can offer versus really focusing on the depth of what they can offer, right? So
Yeah.
Anomalo just being founded core in data quality and how to apply AI ML to it what we've seen with a lot of our customers and our prospects is not only is our ease of use and enterprise grade security superior, but it's really, hey, when I'm actually looking for anomalies in an automated fashion, who is actually able to detect it better, faster, with more flexibility, right? That's really the question that a lot of our customers do bake us on. And then they always come back to Anomalo saying that, hey, like your investment in this is really showing off and paying off. So that's kind of my 2 cents. Amy?
Yeah, I think it comes back to that idea of a rules-based solution, right? So when we think about compromising, right, that was the whole theme here. What they're great at, to Anthony's point, is they do have a wider array. They have a catalog, as an example, right? We don't focus on a data catalog. We believe other people do that well. But what they're asking you to compromise is by still leaning in heavily to a rules-based approach to data quality, right? So we've seen a number of customers actually stick with the Kleber data catalog or migrate to a partner of ours, like an Atlan as an example. But time and time again, they start with solving the most acute pain, which is data quality. And the biggest takeaway you're going to see is the ability for us, as Anthony detailed, to use machine learning to automatically find patterns within your data, alleviating the need for you ever to have to write a rule within Calibra. And yes, Calibra has tried to come out with what I think they're calling AI-driven rule generation, but again, it's still rules, right? So it's still only going to know what to look for. It still is manual, versus Anomalo takes the pattern of being autonomous, as we've talked about, as also as having a deep depth of understanding of your data. But happy to get into more details there as we have a couple other questions coming in. Anthony, is there a way to create a workflow on structured data quality checks? I love this. We had demoed unstructured data before.
Yeah, that's also a good question as well. So what we've commonly see out there, especially from the structure side, because again, data quality monitoring on structured table isn't necessarily a new thing, is that a lot of our customers already have existing workflow platforms. And what Anomal does is fit into them, right? A lot of external schedulers are out there. For example, I'm sure a lot of people on the call, Airflow is a really popular and big one today, right? And we have very strong integration with that. So I would say from the structured side, because again, data quality monitoring on structured data isn't a new thing, and probably everyone here on the call is likely doing a version of it today. We use our API, our CLI to really plug into those existing pipelines. But it'd be great to learn more about kind of what you have, and then we can figure out what's the best path forward.
Yeah, the one thing I'd add to that too is when we think about the world of structured data, data quality is a little bit more defined. And so we do have, we don't call it workflows, but it's essentially a workflow for resolving data quality issues, right? We think about the world as far as detect, alert, resolve. And in the world of resolution, Anthony showed this, but we provide automated root cause analysis and then a triaging tool as well as integrations directly into your platforms like Jira or ServiceNow. So that is a workflow in its own right, right? I want to detect and resolve data quality issues. You saw that in the UI that Anthony pointed out for unstructured. Where unstructured goes further is what you saw analyze, turn unstructured data into structured data, more of the data prep use cases that we've seen really have a bigger demand and need from customers in the unstructured space. So two more here. We can stay on certainly if other folks can. Sorry if this was answered already, but do the anomaly detection tools work if the data comes in, say, weekly, monthly, or even annually?
Yeah. So the answer is yes. Anomalo, in a way, is agnostic to when data actually comes in, weekly, monthly, annually, etc. I will just say for our models to be most efficient, we would recommend data being updated frequently, right? And the reason for that is it's really outside of Anomalo, but it's just machine learning in general. Again, back to ChatGPT's example, they're training on literally the entire internet, right? And that's just so much data, more confidence, higher accuracy. If a data set is updated annually, if you think about that, that's one data point, which is just not very efficient at all. So we can apply rules to that, et cetera. We can do a one-time detection, but the more data that we have, the more you're able to hydrate it, the more just models in general, regardless of anomaly or something else, will be more accurate and more confident.
Okay, and then kind of a niche one, but we're gonna try to, stump the chump here, as Anthony likes to say. Any opportunity of checking data quality of structured data within a document? Example, customer ID, customer name, loan maturity, etc., within a loan contract document. The goal is to ensure those align with a loan table.
Yeah, checking data quality of a structured data within a document. Um, Example customer ID. Yeah, I'm looking at the question to show they align with the loan table. So if you're trying to compare and contrast a document, yeah, I think that's where it's going to compare and contrast the structured with the actual raw file. That's comparing and contrasting those two is not something we offer today, but you've seen a demo of both platforms. They are on a single platform, and having some type of synergy between those two is definitely something we consider for our roadmap. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really interesting use case. I'd love to dive deeper into that one, but